The following is a presentation of the Treasure Island Baseball Network.
The calendar may say it's winter, but it's always a good time to be focusing on the boys of summer. From the stars who make the plays on the diamond to the ones who make the decisions in the front office, let's bring you inside your hometown nine with Inside Twins. Inside Twins is sponsored by Killebrew Root Beer, locally owned and operated. It's how memories are created and legends are made.
Well, welcome everyone to Inside Twins, again brought to you by Killebrew Root Beer, locally owned and operated. It's how memories are created and legends are made. It's our off-season version, the first show of the year. We're going to have this for you the next 7 weeks, walk you right up into the beginning of spring training, and then turn things over for some Grapefruit League action towards the end of February. Chris Atterbury, Danny Gladden will be on the call for a majority of our spring training broadcasts. I'm Mark Janowski. Again, thanks to all of you for joining us here on this edition of Inside Twins. First one of 2025, and it's actually our first chance to chat with you all since September 29th, when the rather disappointing conclusion to the 2024 campaign played out. There's been some very significant activity within the Twins organization over those last 3 months. So let's just get you caught up on that quickly. First and foremost, after 40 years of owning the Minnesota Twins, the Pohlad family has expressed interest to explore selling the Minnesota Twins. That obviously was a bombshell of an announcement. There's been rumors and speculations. We're not going to get into any of that today on this show. But again, the Pohlad family looking to possibly sell the team after owning for 40 years. With that, some shakeup on the Twins front office side of things. Dave St. Peter is going to be transitioning to the role of strategic advisor. That means Derek Falvey is now going to be president of both baseball and business operations for the organization. Thad Levine has moved on. Jeremy Zoll promoted to senior vice president and general manager. He'll be our guest joining us here in about a minute on the show. Changes to the on-field staff as Matt Borgschulte has been brought in as the new hitting coach. His assistants are going to be Trevor Amacone and Raiden Sierra. Hank Conger shifting from first base to assistant bench coach. Ramon Borrego, the new first base infield coach. Tony Diaz, no longer with the club. Unfortunately, some longtime members of the Twins no longer with the club. Is Max Kepler, been a Twin since 2009, 10 years with the team. He's moved on, signed as a free agent with the Phillies. Caleb Thielbar is now with the Cubs. Alex Kirilloff, who at one point in time looked like he had such a promising career, saw it get derailed by injuries, and he retired here in this offseason. Kyle Farmer now with the Rockies. Carlos Santana, the Gold Glove winning first baseman last season, is now back in Cleveland. The Twins have brought in a couple of guys. They've signed Mike Ford so far. They acquired utility player Mickey Gasper from Boston for pitcher Giovanni Moran, and they drafted Eberson Castellano from the Phillies in the Rule 5 draft. So there's some housekeeping elements for you. But let's get to the main guest. Let's get to the big news from the offseason. Jeremy Zoll, the new general manager for the Minnesota Twins, joining us now. Jeremy, congratulations.
Thanks so much, Mark. I really appreciate you having me on the show.
Yeah, you know what? We've seen you around the ballpark going back to 18 in various roles. You can connect the dots. You can see your ascent to the chair that you're now in and occupying. But when did you first think or first set as a goal, I want to be a general manager of a major league team?
Yeah, great question. I think it probably goes all the way back to, some point at childhood. I'd guess in high school, it felt like something that would be a really cool thing. I had no idea at the time what that actually entailed. And even in my earliest years of actually working in baseball, what I thought the job was to what it is now is definitely two very different things. It just encompasses so much more than solely, the transactions for the major league team. And there's so many different wings within baseball operations and areas to make impact throughout the organization. But, something that I thought about, at a relatively young age, and like many, Moneyball was something that definitely, sparked my interest and made me want to learn more. And, just really excited that this has come together the way that it has.
And you've been part of the group. We should point out you're not coming in from the outside. You've been with the organization in a couple different capacities, helping direct the player development the first couple years, then as an assistant general manager. Derek Felvey, great at building and wanting to have such a collaborative environment, and you've been a key part of that in your time here. But now the view changes, things get a little bit different in that seat that you do occupy. So far, what would you say has been the biggest challenge or surprise in the first couple months?
Yeah, ultimately we've been working through a number of different structure and restructurings within the baseball operations group, and more to come on that in the days and weeks to come. But that's taken up a large chunk of the off season, trying to make sure that we have all the right people in the right seats, and went through the process of major league coach hiring, which you touched on at the top of the show, and trying to make sure that we're as aligned as possible for the year ahead. Whenever these changes come about at the leadership level, it leads to an opportunity to ultimately try to find opportunities to revise and enhance and improve our processes. And that's been something that I've been spending a lot of time with our other key leaders on, to try to get to the best spot we can for making as many really good decisions as we can for the year ahead and the future.
I'm intrigued by what is the process right now where you're at with evaluating the direction you're going to go with the squad here so far in the off season. The reality is, I mean, as coming from a fan, you have a choice of looking at things glass half empty or glass half full. If you just look at the last 3 years, the Twins have had the 2023 Central Division Championship with a victory in a series in the postseason. That's great. The 2 years that sandwich it, they were in contention for the division or a postseason spot until, unfortunately, let's be honest, disastrous final months of the season. So what do you lean on right now when you're trying to figure out what is the direction? What do we have and what is an actual path?
Yeah, no doubt. I think ultimately, as you touched on there, obviously this past season and the 2022 season did not end the way that anyone was hoping, and it was tremendously disappointing on a number of fronts. But as to take the glass half full approach, when you then look at the roster for that we currently have, and know the impact of so many of those players, and so many different roles they can fill, different positions they all can play. And how good that group is without, clear gaping holes across the field, like you might have in certain off seasons. That gives you a lot to work with, and puts you in an advantageous position to navigate the off season, to try to be really opportunistic. Obviously, the moves so far have been oriented to some of the Rule 5 pick or minor league free agent signings, the trade for Mickey Gasper, but that's not to say that we haven't been monitoring the free agent market and working really hard in the trade market to just try to find different ways to enhance the team. But we really view it much more as enhancing, because of that core group we have, and steps forward that we envision for so many of our key players, and then the big thing of keeping as many of those core players on the field for the duration of the season, to help us get to where we want to be at the end of 2025.
Yeah, you mentioned monitoring the trade market. This is your guys' window. This is when you guys really step up and swing for something in the last couple of years or make things happen. So I know you're not going to probably give anything away right now, but I think a lot of fans sitting there waiting to see what may transpire over the next couple of weeks leading into spring training. We're talking about some of the key players, some of the core that you can make a decision to say, this is a legitimate core to try to build around. I want to start by getting some updates on guys that are from that core that, unfortunately, first guy I want to talk about is Joe Ryan. That injury that he had really came at the same point in time where things started to slip away for the 2024 Twins. Can you give us an update on where Joe is coming back from the teres major strain in the shoulder?
Yeah, Joe's doing great. He's tracking really well to be full go for spring training, and ultimately, we took the conservative approach when that injury happened, which was obviously so unfortunate for him. The care that he puts into his body, it came as a surprise to all of us. But it was one of those injuries where if you try to get too aggressive too quickly, you could really set yourself up for issues from more of a long-term perspective. So that conservative approach, and him being out for the remainder of the 2024 season, we knew it was setting us up really well for 2025, and he's full go, and we're really excited about that.
Yeah, it was just so weird. You're used to hearing pitchers, unfortunately, when they come down injured, it's the elbow or it's something more definitive with the shoulder. The nature of that injury, I think, caught everybody just off guard. I can still remember him walking off the mound when that happened. And so, just because it's not an injury that's so much talked about and out there, was he able to rehab similar fashion if there would have been an issue with a different part of the arm? Like, is that muscle structure back?
Yeah, so he's been able to strengthen up all those muscles in his shoulder, through that rest and recovery process, and then in turn the physical therapy and weight training programs that have been devised for him, and his MRIs, repeat MRIs, all looked really good. So we're really optimistic that that's healed and going to be something that's in the past for him.
Well, one of the silver linings that occurred last year, unfortunately, with Joe getting hurt, with Chris Paddock having a more uneven return from the second Tommy John, and even with Louis Varland's struggles in the rotation, other guys stepped up like Simeon Woods Richardson, but then we saw a Zebby Matthews, we saw a David Festa. First of all, you have to really like what you're looking at from a depth perspective coming into the season with some starting pitching options.
Yeah, no doubt. We've been very careful to try to not tempt the baseball gods and fate by saying that we feel great about our starting pitching depth, but we do feel like we're in a really advantageous position, especially knowing how hard it is to have 1 through 5 and then 6 through 10, because you usually need that many to get through a year. We feel really good about our options from that 1 through 10 and even beyond realm. And as you mentioned, Simeon took a really big step forward this past year, was huge for the team. And then Zebby's ascent all the way up to getting a call up, and David Festa taking another big step forward. Just feel really good about where our group is at to supplement, Pablo Lopez, Bailey Over, Joe Ryan, and so on here.
Yeah, when you think of David Festa, it's remarkable to see how he has made his strides over the years. I know you're in tune to that side of the development, so that had to be very encouraging and exciting for you to watch what he did last year.
Yeah, absolutely. David, his ascent from, being a later draft pick and, really feeling much more like a ball of clay than anything when he came into the organization, to finding that spike in his velocity, to being able to develop a slider that really paired well with his fastball, to continuing to enhance his changeup, and then packing on innings, experience, execution, to see what he did early in the year in AAA. It was second to none in terms of strikeout rate and his ability to really carve up those AAA lineups. And we saw some really positive strides in the second half at the big league level, and think his future is just tremendously bright.
First, tough question for you. We're talking about depth with starting pitching. Griffin Jacks, starter or reliever?
Yeah. So ultimately, it's something we've been working through, heavily throughout the off season with, Griffin, his agent, his family, all those things. And, as we've worked through all of that, our plan is to keep Griff in the bullpen for 2025. And obviously he was tremendously valuable in 2024. We feel like he's one of the best relievers in the game, and feel really good about that role and plan for the upcoming year. And know Griff is excited about that as well.
Well, I know Griffin almost was the one that spearheaded that thought about maybe trying starting again. I know, if anything, he's such a competitor that he would like another crack at it, because he's saying to himself and wants to say to others, I'm different and I'm better and I've evolved than the guy who got that crack a couple years ago. That's got to be threading a needle, a fine needlehead right there with the thread for you, when you have to sit down and say, I understand what you're presenting, but we really see you here better.
Yeah, absolutely. And at the end of the day, through the different conversations in the off season, with Derek and Rocco and Griff and the whole group, we feel like, there's a lot of alignment for the upcoming year. Everyone's at, in a really good spot with the decision. It's definitely something Griff has, thought about and processed. And, at this point, he feels good about that decision, and we're all on the same page for the upcoming year, and not ever ruling anything out for the future, but ultimately think this puts everyone in the best spot for success in 2025.
Do you have Louis Varland penciled in as a bullpen mate down there for Griff, or are we still going to trot him out maybe starting?
Yeah, we're ultimately Louis part of our group that we feel really good. He's part of that group that I was referencing earlier here, that he's, so valuable to the organization, and the starting pitching depth we have. I think that's ultimately something we can, continue to work through over the course of, as spring training gets rolling. You never know exactly what's going to pop up as the offseason, finalizes itself, and if any injuries pop up in spring training. So, that'll be something we can finalize as things keep going here. But, we've seen Louis really succeed in the bullpen at various points. And, he's also been a really good minor league starter. So, sometimes it takes guys an extra crack, but also if he does end up in the bullpen, we feel like he'll be a real weapon out there for us.
Okay, good. Let's transition to the position side of things. And I have to go Abbott and Costello on here to start. Who's on first? What is your designs on that? When you look at your squad and you look at who you have, that's really one of the biggest question marks right now. Where are you at right now and how you see that position playing out?
Totally. Yeah. So, as it stands right now, we feel like, Jose Miranda is someone that, has obviously played the position at various points. He's obviously, also played some third base. So we feel like he's someone that can step into the role here, and keep progressing through his career and journey. We've also, had conversations about Eddie Julian, sliding into that, or mixing in some second base, some first base. As you mentioned at the top of the show, signed Mike Ford on a minor league deal, and he has, experience at the position as well. So, we feel like we have a few different routes and options, if nothing else changes with the roster. And, as I continue to reference here, we're still, evaluating all opportunities and paths to, make sure we're putting the best 26 guys on the field for opening day here.
Now, you mentioned Eddie Julian possibly in the mix over at first base. Typically, we see him at second base, but my question is that where we're going to see Royce this year at second base? Where do you see and project Royce's primary position?
Yeah, I think as we've worked through that with Royce in the offseason, he's excited about the opportunity to have a full spring training to be on that side of the bag. It is different than being on the left side of the infield, which is where he's spent so much of his career, minor leagues and major leagues. So feel really good about where his headspace is at on that. But as we're going to keep talking about the rest of the group here, there's the one thing we really like is how versatile and flexible the whole group is. So you can see worlds where Royce is playing some third and some second, depending on where we're at on any given point. You can see worlds where Jose is playing first base and third base. We have Willie Castro, who can play essentially everywhere on the field, and Eddie as well, and Brooks Lee can play all over. So we view that as a real strength and weapon. You see the best teams really have a number of those versatile pieces, and we think that's just essential to sustaining our success, and as things pop up during the year with injuries, allow you to work through that successfully.
Yeah, we've certainly seen versatility be a key part of Rocco's squads over the years, and that you guys have assembled for Rocco. But so right now, expect to see Royce at second base more than what?
Yeah. So we expect when we get to Fort Myers, he'll be taking ground balls at second, he'll be taking ground balls at third. We'll make sure he's getting the right amount of reps at both, so that when the opening day lineup needs to be written, we're in the best position we can be, and we'll go from there.
Well, depending on where he's at, to one side or the other, you want to see Carlos Correa there, and you want to see him there for a longer time than he's been out there the last couple of years. Give us an update on Carlos. Again, another season that was derailed by plantar fasciitis. Just how is he doing? And then also, are there any steps you guys are trying to take in the offseason to see what maybe has been causing the plantar fasciitis and try to almost train differently?
Yeah, for sure. So Carlos is another guy who's in a really good spot this offseason. Had his repeat or follow-up appointments, with the physicians out in California. Been in touch with Nick Paparessa and Dr. Camp along the way, and he's really optimistic of how his body's feeling, how his foot's feeling, and it's definitely been on all of our minds, in Carlos's mind, of how to make sure that we don't run into that issue in 2025, and feel like we have some ideas there to manage things and make sure he's and support things and make sure he's in the best spot possible to be in the lineup as much as he can.
So he's right there, though, where you want him to be a couple weeks before guys start getting down to Fort Myers.
Absolutely. Yep. exactly.
All right, last one in terms of players. The two guys right now with Max Kepler's departure that you would look at in your corner outfield spots, Trevor Larnach, Matt Wallner, much like Max, lefties. Is this a year where perhaps those guys or lefties in general will face more lefties, or are you still trying to have that angle of platooning them or a versatility in the corners too?
Yeah, ultimately, Rocco will make the calls, on a day-to-day basis for what's putting the best lineup out in the field. But at various points throughout the year, definitely saw Trevor getting more opportunities against the lefty at times, or Matty getting opportunities against lefties at times, especially down the stretch. And again, I think it's comes down to these things of like best laid plans when you feel like everyone's healthy and at the start in the off season or at the start of spring training versus the realities and ebbs and flows of the season. So, I think there's a ton of different factors that go into that. We know that, they're hopeful to keep gaining more and more opportunities, and we're optimistic they're going to keep earning those opportunities along the way here.
Whether we're talking about Trevor or Matt or any position player, last topic for you in this segment, they get a chance to work with some different eyes and ears and philosophies on the hitting coach side of things. Matt Borgschulte back into the organization. He was actually with the Saints for a couple of years. Then he went to Baltimore. Now you guys brought him back. What do you like about what he's bringing to the table, and how has he dove into the role? Has he been contacting guys and trying to talk to them already?
Yeah, absolutely. We're thrilled to have Matt back in the organization here. We were really fortunate, Matt. That we had the opportunity to bring him back in. Started with us in 2018, all the way down in rookie ball, and has climbed through the ranks. And at the time, didn't have the right opportunity for him. And the Baltimore one was just too good to pass up. He did amazing things there in Baltimore, and to have the chance to bring him back in was something we didn't want to miss on. And his steadiness, his relationships that he has with a number of the players from even his Fort Myers days all the way up through St. Paul is really valuable. His emphasis on approach and swing decisions is something that we're really valuing, and he's been working really hard with Alex Hassan, Trevor Amicone, Raiden Sierra, Josh Kalk, our whole group to make sure we're aligned on plans and philosophy for the offense for the upcoming year. And he's made a few visits out to players. He's in touch with all of them, in conjunction with our coaching staff, and I think we're in a great spot to hit the ground running in Fort Myers here.
Yeah, I like that. I like you bring a guy back, but he's been gone for a couple of years, and then he hits the ground and he's out talking to the guys and getting in front of them when possible already before waiting for spring training. So that's a good thing there about Matt Borgschulte coming in, hitting coach. Jeremy Zoll is our guest. This is Inside Twins. We're going to step aside for a quick break. When we come back, we debut a new segment this year. We're going to call it Cardnack. Find out what I'm talking about next here on your home for Twins baseball. Welcome back to Inside Twins, brought to you by Killebrew Root Beer, locally owned and operated. It's how memories are created and legends are made. It's our first show of the offseason and of 2025. A big month here in January. Twins just announced plans for Caravan, a 2-day, 2-leg stops that are going to be happening later on in the month. And of course, that's going to trickle all up and lead into Twins Fest here at Target Field on Saturday, January 25th. Jeremy Zoll is our guest. Segment 2 this year on Inside Twins on the off-season show. We're going to call it Cardnack, Jeremy. Now, some of our listeners and viewers may remember Johnny Carson's character, Karnak the Magnificent. Neither one of us have the giant Swami hat or the turban to put on, and I'm not going to be holding anything to my forehead, but how we're going to do this is instead of trying to divine and giving answers to a question in an envelope, we're going to have a baseball card. We're going to reveal some stats and facts from the back of it, and we're going to ask you to try to guess who we're talking about. Are you game?
I'm game. I told you before the show, I'm definitely nervous here. I'm probably going to embarrass myself a little bit along the way, but I'm excited for it. So here we go.
Well, let's see. The only thing I wish is we had it in the budget for an Ed McMahon type character for me down here in the studio. All right, here's our first card. It's a Topps 2023 card, and we're going to find out that this individual was signed as an international free agent in 2013. And 5 years later, he was ranked in the Cleveland system as their 5th best prospect. Now, the next season in 2019, he made his major league debut as a Detroit Tiger, and it came against the Minnesota Twins. He spent 4 years into Detroit. He had his best season with the Tigers in 2022. You see, he had a 1.1 WAR that season. Jeremy, who are we talking about? Who's on this card?
I'm going to go with Willie Castro here.
It is Willie Castro. That is a good guess. Now, when the Twins were courting Willie Castro, Rocco's on the record saying you reached out to Rocco saying, hey, please call this guy, give him a recruiting spiel, if you will, to really have him think about joining us. What was it about Willie Castro back then that you liked, the guy who ended up being your 2024 team MVP?
Yeah, Willie, was non-tendered by Detroit at the end of that season, and he was a name that stood out to us, right away when the non-tenders came through as someone we wanted to target. Felt like we could get it done on a non-roster invite minor league deal, and it took a few weeks there working through it with his agency. Agents had a number of connections to the Twins and felt like it was going to be a really good fit. At the time, Willie. And Willie still is, pretty young player, especially to have, as much major league service as he had. So we just thought there was some real upside there, and knowing that he could basically play anywhere on the field, felt like maybe, there was some untapped potential offensively, and also just could expose him a little bit more in center and shortstop. So, the ability, that versatility, which we've been talking about, was something that really appealed to us. And in the process, felt like we had a really good shot, and to try to close the deal, knew we needed to have Rocco talk to him, just because, when a player like Willie is signing a minor league deal, they want to make sure when they come into camp that they're competing, they're going to have a real chance to make the team. And, that was something I had conveyed to the agents, and, he wanted to make sure Willie got to hear it directly from Rocco. So glad they got to work through that conversation, and we got it done right before Christmas, if I remember correctly, and the rest is history from there.
Yeah, excuse me, what I really liked about that too is sometimes people are like, oh, spring training can just be going through the motions. But I remember watching 23 unfold, and I'm like, this individual is earning a spot. He is winning a spot, earning a spot on the major league team, and should be definitely breaking camp and heading north with the Twins. And he did. And again, 2024 team MVP. All right, let's get the card number 2. All right, card number 2. Again, this is a Topps from the top series. I can't remember what year right now off the top of my head. I think it's 2006. What's our first clue from this player? Okay, so you can see he spent 2003 through 2006 playing for the Red Sox, which is a little bit out in your home vicinity as you were growing up, and maybe keeping some eyes and ears on the guys. Put 6 home runs and 33 ribbies on the board in 2004 when the Red Sox broke a curse and won a World Series. Next clue. So he was actually drafted by the Tigers way back in 95 in the 57th round. Bounced around through teams, though, in his 12-year career, played with 6 different teams, including he was traded from the Tiger organization to Texas in a deal that brought the Tigers back Juan Gonzalez. Last clue, Drew. The 2021 National League Manager of the Year after winning 107 games for the Giants. He managed parts of 6 seasons in the big leagues, 2 with the Phillies, and then 4 with the Giants. Jeremy, who's on the card?
I got to admit, I was a little nervous as I was racking my brain on current players, but I think I got where we're going here, so I'm going to go with Gabe Kapler.
It is Gabe Kapler, and the last clue there that I didn't mention that was revealed, the director of player development for the Dodgers from 2015 through 2017, and obviously the connection there is you were in the Dodger organization and overlapped with him at that time, working with him. When you think about that time, what did you glean or learn from Gabe Kapler that you have taken forward now in your baseball journey in the front office?
Yeah, I really enjoyed my couple of years getting to work under Cap, and he's someone that really pushed me in so many ways. Ability to have hard conversations, direct conversations, challenging me to take an idea and run with it and put it into practice and not be afraid to fail, going through the trial and error process. So I could go on for a while, but really grateful for the positions that he put me in to grow and learn and succeed. And someone that still keep in touch with regularly, and grateful for those years together.
Well, and as an assistant general manager with the Marlins too right now, so I'm sure not just talking to him on a personal level, talking to him professionally, talking to potential trades or whatever else, to staying in contact with him that way. All right, let's get to our third and final card here on Cardnack. This is going to be a specialty item from a player's collegiate days. So let's reveal the first clue. Look at that. He was team captain. He was named the first team All-Centennial Conference catcher. He earned academic honor roll honors. He was also voted onto the third team All-Mid-Atlantic region. What's our next clue? You can see, right there, look at that. For a catcher, look at that. What pops out to me is the discerning eye. 73 walks during his 4 years there in college, along with some exhibiting some speed, 34 stolen bases. Jeremy, who do you think we're talking about here?
I'm going to go with me, I guess. I don't think that card is real, but I'm curious to see it turn around here. So
and there's the reveal. Look at that, a future star.
Oh man, I'll have to talk to Tops. I'm not sure that's actually in production.
Well, it would actually be a huge collector's item for somebody's collection out there, right?
Atterbury can put it in his collection.
I'm sure he's already contacting people. He wants one of one, or however they label those nowadays. But yeah, when you look back at your days of playing college, did you know already at that point in time that baseball's where you wanted to end up in some capacity?
Haverford, really special place for me for the 4 years there, and the teammates, the friendships, the time together. Our Coach Beccaria, who's still there and has just built an unbelievable program, from where it was when he took over so long ago. But there's such a rich alumni history at the college of alums going on to work in front offices, and that's what really made it feel like something that could be possible, was knowing how many alums had gone on to prestigious positions within the game, and a number of those folks were really helpful in guiding me and helping me get my foot in the door. So I'd already done a summer internship with the Reds between junior and senior year, and that one thing kind of led to another from there. But college definitely was something that led to me feeling like this would be a possibility.
Well, Jeremy, you did outstanding. You went 3 for 3 here on our debut edition of Cardnack. We don't have any present for you or a prize, just a laurel and a hearty handshake, but we appreciate you for playing along and doing that. So stick around. We got one more segment coming up here where the fans get a chance to ask some questions right here on your home for Twins baseball. Welcome back. It's the final segment of Inside Twins, our first show of 2025. It's brought to you by Killebrew Root Beer, locally owned and operated. It's how memories are created and legends are made. Again, fans can take in this program on the Twins social media channels of Facebook, YouTube, and X. They also have a chance to submit questions for that week's guest. Also, our fine array of affiliates people can be listening along up and down the dial of the Treasure Island Baseball Network. Twins General Manager Jeremy Zoll is our guest. I get the first question here of the final segment of the show. And so, Jeremy, I am going to come at you with this one. You had to tender guys right before the arbitration deadline. You did extend them to all 11 guys that were eligible. You signed Michael Tonkin, Justin Topa, and Brock Stewart at that time. There are 8 guys out there right now still that you are working with on a contract. It's Juan Duran, Griffin Jacks, Bailey Ober, Joe Ryan, Ryan Jeffers, Royce Lewis, Trevor Larnach, and Willie Castro. Can you just give us a little update on where that process is at? Is anybody close to putting ink on a piece of paper?
Yeah, so the process. This is a big week for the arbitration process. The deadline is tomorrow at noon Central. So as is the case with many things, whether it's the trade deadline, the arbitration deadline, draft, and so on. Deadlines are what spur action here. So our group is working really hard on that process to get everything to where it needs to be, and very optimistic we'll be in a good spot when noon hits here tomorrow.
So we'll be getting some news shortly there on where things are at with that. And I know teams and players traditionally don't really like going to the table to have to hammer things out. And the Twins organization has a history of normally getting things done. Can you look any multi-year deals right now, or with the ownership situation, are you almost taking the approach with arbitration guys? Let's just do a 1-year deal, let things settle.
Yeah, usually this time of year, and in the arbitration process, you're focused on the 1 year number, with extensions and multi years typically coming more spring training time. Obviously there are exceptions to that, or at times if there's not in agreement, by tomorrow, and in between the time of tomorrow and a hearing date, sometimes that could lead to multi-year conversations. Historically across the game, that sometimes happen, but usually spring training is when we're focused on that. And agents and players and teams are mostly focused on just trying to get to the 1 year number right now. Obviously, an exception we saw this week was Brent Rooker, former Twin, getting a deal done with the Athletics. I almost said Oakland. I'm still working on adjusting there, the Athletics. But typically, those multi-year conversations are a little bit later on in the process here.
Okay, let's get to a couple from the fans. Starting to throw logs on the fire here on the hot stove and off season for the Twins. Getting a little antsy to see what kind of moves may happen. It's been reported, again, it's all rumors and speculation from people like me down in my chair. If you had to trade folks, who would you trade? And I never like to just throw that around so casually, because a trade, you're uprooting a person, a family, a way of life for people, and you're also acquiring a person who's going through that same thing. So I don't like, it's not baseball cards. We're not trading baseball cards. You're trading human beings, but folks are interested. Chris Paddock, Willie Castro, Christian Vasquez, some of what you have in your stable that has value if you're looking at making trades. This person, Carter, would like to know, do you see him being in a Twins uniform this year, or could they be visitors at Target Field?
Yeah, for sure. I think ultimately, in the question there is the goal to move them. I think that's probably not the right characterization by any means, and whether it's those few players specifically, or really anyone on our roster. Our job is to field all calls, to work through the best decisions possible, and put the best team on the field for 2025. We feel like all three of those guys have can have real roles, will have real roles, if they're, in the organization. And, we're just trying to work through as many of the conversations as we can. You never know exactly what opportunities could come up, whether it's for them or otherwise. And, don't have like a clear directive or mandate that one or any of them need to be moved. Feel like we're in an advantageous position to be really selective with our offseason discussions and decisions here.
So that last question, talking about maybe who could you be trading to bring in different folks. You can also bring in different folks by prospects that come up through the system eventually, like we saw with Festa and Zebby last year. Scott would like to say, who are the top 5 prospects right now?
Yeah,
I think that should be who does. I think that was supposed to be who does Jeremy think is the top 5 prospects right now, not who fires Jeremy's top 5 prospects.
We'll go with does for the sake of the question here. So I start at the top. A couple guys. We're constantly talking about as a top couple names in our system: Emmanuel Rodriguez and Walker Jenkins. Depending on who you ask, it's a good problem to have that they're right at the top of our system here, and both of them. Left-handed bats that we think have tremendous potential to make a big impact in the outfield. Both have played a lot of time in center field, exposing them to the corners. So feel really good about where they're at. Always a little bit tricky on these questions of who we're classifying still as prospects or not. Does Zebby Matthews count? Does David Festa still count or not? Don't want to skip over those guys by any means, but and Brooks Lee and others. It depends where you're looking for who qualifies for all these different things. But some of the other names, like to touch on beyond those guys. Marco Raya continues to really ascend through our system, and really excited for him to be in AAA this year and take another step forward. Kalen Culpepper, our first round pick from this past season, I think he has a tremendously bright future ahead of him. Charlie Soto from a couple years ago, feel really good about his first pro season, going to low A as an 18-year-old, making it through the whole season, continuing to develop his pitch mix. So those are a number of the guys that I usually touch on for top of the system that we're really excited about, and are all at kind of different points in their development here.
Yeah, and I know, again, you cut your teeth and started moving up the ranks, working through player development, and there's a passion within you for watching prospects evolve and trying to scout talent like that. So going to be intrigued from my seat to watch how you balance all of that with your expanded duties this year. All right, let's get to our next question. This one, what does a GM's day look like? And also, who was your favorite player growing up?
Yeah, one of the things I love about working in baseball is, no 2 days look the same. That's always been true. Kind of regardless of what role I've held, it's certainly true as I've stepped into this chair as general manager. And depending on what time of year we're at, it leads to different problems to solve, different decisions to work through. So we're working through the offseason process, which includes checking in with agents on major league free agents, minor league free agents, trade discussions with other teams. We talked about the arbitration process and supporting our group, making sure they're where they need to be. And so depending on where we're at, that's, off-season could encompass any of those things, and making sure we're staying in touch with all components of our baseball operations group to be getting their opinions and ideas. Spring training looks and feels much different, from a day-to-day basis, making sure we're getting ready for the season. And then in season, there's a lot of, just that day-to-day of getting ready for the game, upcoming roster moves, so on and so forth. And, could go on for a while about the ebbs and flows of the season. But, I think the truest answer is no 2 days ever really look the same. And that's the fun of it, at least for me. Favorite player growing up. I know this is, always controversial, especially being in the Twins organization now, but did grow up going to Yankees games as a child. And, my formative years were, going to 96, 98, 99, 2000 World Series. So, that was, that definitely sparked a lot of emotion for me to be the fan that I was, and to have the interest in baseball I did. Alfonso Soriano is usually who comes to mind to answer the question. I don't know where they are now, but I had about 50 of his cards, and just loved watching him play. And he came so close to the 40-40 season the one year with the Yankees, and that was something I really followed closely as a kid. And then he got it easily the next year with the Nationals, which was a bummer for me that it didn't happen, when I got to attend games. But yeah, that's my answer there.
So you're saying if we would have gotten it with an Alfonso Soriano card at our last segment, you probably would have got it before I finished revealing the first.
I would have had a chance. I would have had a good chance.
All right, Jeremy. Well, hey, listen, thank you very much for joining us on our first show this year. Congratulations again on the job. I know folks are out there. There's a lot of pundits just want to think that the job is easy. We know differently. I know you guys are working in a collaborative environment, trying to see what kind of squad you're going to put together. Anxious to see what news comes out, and because I know it doesn't end right at spring training. You guys have made moves even within the spring training, so I'm sure you guys are going to keep working towards that. But again, congratulations, and thank you for joining us.
Yeah, thanks so much. I really appreciate it, and thanks for having me on today.
All right, Twins General Manager Jeremy Zoll, our first guest here of the year on Inside Twins. I want to encourage everybody here on the radio to, we had some really good stuff. Go back and look at the podcast or the versions on the Twins social media channels of Facebook, YouTube, or X for some of the information and conversation between Jeremy and I here that did not make airwaves. Thank you very much for joining us. This has been Inside Twins, brought to you by Killebrew Root Beer, locally owned and operated. It's how memories are created and legends are made. We'll join you again next week right here in your home for Twins baseball.